darlings, welcome to Tea with Justine. Have I got an episode for all my fellow history geeks today? Because today we are going to talk about the Reformation. I know, it's kind of weird that I'm so excited to talk about the Reformation, isn't it? Well, there is a reason. Two reasons. One, October 31st, 2017 marks the 500th anniversary of the start of the Reformation. It was the day that Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses to the church door, which led to 500 years of misunderstandings and animosity. The other reason I'm talking about this is because I recently started a certification course on ecumenical and interreligious studies. Yeah, I didn't know what ecumenical meant until the first day of class, let alone know how to pronounce it. Clearly, I signed up for the interreligious part, which is probably self-explanatory. Ecumenical means Christians trying to work together with other Christians and building a stronger Christian community as a whole. What did I learn in class? I learned that many of history's problems are all rooted in the abuse of power and politics. No surprise, eh? But feels very uncomfortably relevant today. So that's the other reason why I want to talk to you about this. Plus, I learned a whole lot in just one day. You know, I do find it fascinating to study history through a religious perspective because I feel like it kind of helps everything fall into place and make things a little more clear. It could also be that the last time I studied the Reformation, I was probably a daydreaming high school student. Let me back this up a little bit just to give you a brief foundation of Christianity. Christianity 101. So first you have the 5 major C's, spelled S-E-E-S, not C''S like I first thought, because I was like, what the heck does C stand for? Okay, so you had Rome. Hello, Rome. And then you had Alexandria, Antioch, Constantinople, and Jerusalem. Now my fingers are all chocolatey. Now they're all happily, independently governing, but all equal, until one day in 1054, Rome decided to flex her muscles a little bit and add 3 words to the creed without consulting any of the others. And then it was like, oh my gosh, how could you do that, Rome? You're such an arrogant, greedy abuse of power. And then poof, split Christianity east and west. Or west and east? Guess it depends which way you're looking at it. Anyways, I mean, it wasn't just over the 3 words. Visions were already sprouting, and that was kind of like the final straw because Rome decided to act on its own without respecting their equal powers. So that was the first major split. Now imagine if Rome had just discussed these things with the other 4. Maybe a split could have been avoided. So fast forward a little bit, and you have Martin Luther, the German monk in the town of Wittenberg. And, you know, Martin Luther, very wise man, started to question some of the practices and corruption of the church, and also had some great ideas to spread the faith even more and allow followers to engage better. So the 95 Theses was actually a request for dialogue. It wasn't like he went up to the church, nailed his announcement, as one did back then, and was like, I'm declaring independence from the Catholic Church. No. what he did. In fact, Martin Luther died believing he was still Catholic. And some scholars and historians would say that he would probably turn in his grave today if he knew there was a religion named after him. Of course, when he decided to question the Catholic Church's authority and power, Pope Leo X was like, no, I do not need to talk to him. We are the Catholic Church. How dare he question us? And it was things that Martin Luther rightfully questioned. There were a bunch of things that were included in his 95 Theses that, ironically, were eventually adopted by the Second Vatican Council, which closed on December 8th, 1965. So 400 and some years later, the Vatican was finally like, maybe we need to make some changes, like make the Bible more accessible to people in their own language, because Latin is a really useless language for everyone to learn. No, I'm just kidding. It's not. It's very useful actually when you want to know the etymology of a word. My point is that Martin Luther just wanted to have a discussion. He just wanted to have an academic discussion about his questions and concerns. Had the Pope taken his time to talk to Martin Luther, set aside his stubbornness and his greed for power, maybe we could have avoided the Reformation. Henry VIII was a similar situation. I mean, not exactly the same, because Henry VIII was just being a big doo-doo head, wanting to annul his marriage from his first wife because she couldn't give him a boy. Always the woman's fault, isn't it? But still, the church's decision not to annul Henry VIII's first marriage had more to do with political power and influences than it did religious values. And it wasn't actually Henry VIII who created the Anglican Church. Henry VIII, like Martin Luther, died thinking of himself as a Catholic. It was actually his daughter, Elizabeth I, that established the Anglican Church. Fast forward to the Revolutionary War in the Americas, and suddenly, after winning the war against the Redcoats, the new Americans decided they wanted to sever all ties with the motherland, and were like, no, we cannot be called Anglicans, so we're gonna be called Episcopalians. Fast forward to today, and there are about 50,000 Christian denominations alone in the United States. And the fastest growing sect is the non-denominational Christian church, because, some folks are like, no, we don't want to be called Catholic because Catholics are full of corruption. Or others are like, no, we don't want to be Baptist because the Baptists have their own issues. And blah, 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 blah. Now, since the Second Vatican Council, the Catholic Church has seen how important it is to, one, self-examine and reform some of the old ways of the church. Second, build ecumenical reforms to bring the Christian community back into one harmonious community. And then the third are interreligious relations. So the Second Vatican Council set out to do some really truly marvelous things, and has been. So now the Catholic Church appears to be making amends and realizing the dialogues it needed to have. But really, as I'm studying this, I realize if the Catholic Church really wants to bring us all back together, what it needs to do is go back to the very beginning and say, hey guys, I'm really sorry that I added those 3 words to the creed and split us up almost 1,000 years ago. I was just being a big bully. I'm really, really sorry. Please forgive me. And that would be the start to forgiveness. Of course, hundreds of years have gone by, so it's hundreds of years of misunderstandings, miscommunications, and grudges to get through. But I think what the Catholic Church has realized is that At least among Christians, we are all Christians. And like a family, religion is family. And you can't expect every member of a family to 100% agree with everyone 100% of the time. I can tell you that my family and I, we do not agree 100% of the time. I'm not even sure we agree 50% of the time. That's the beauty of family, right? You should be able to live harmoniously while diversely. How do we be one and diverse at the same time? And that's what the Christian churches have to figure out. But that's also what the bigger stage of the world needs to figure out. You realize, look, we are all living together and amongst each other. It makes no sense to not get along. What the Catholic Church, what the other Christian churches, what all religious, non-religious sectors need to figure out is, what is the bigger picture? What matters to us? Because do the little differences that we are so focused on really matter so much? And tradition will keep some from wanting to give on certain differences. Totally understand that. But we have to remember the bigger picture, right? Even in today's world, what is it that we all want? We all want love, education, to be able to provide for our families, have good health and access to good health care, feel safe. I believe we all in general have largely the same values. How we get to those values is where the differences lie. But imagine if we could all just talk to each other about the controversial issues that make us all defensive and not wanting to hear the other. Maybe we could avoid a lot of the problems. Had Rome talked to the other 4 seas, maybe we could have avoided things like the Westboro Baptist Church. In every family, we need healthy communication lines. I hope you learned a little something today about the Reformation and why it applies to us. Still, today, I'll update you as I continue on this course because I find it so fascinating and so applicable to everyday life, even when we're talking about 500-year-old stubborn-ass men. So, stay tuned for more of my revelations and adventures. Don't forget to subscribe and share our videos. Now I can finally eat my pie. Oh yeah. Toodles.